Ji-won woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. The first thing she saw was white ceiling panels. The second thing she saw was Tae-hyun sitting in a chair beside her bed reading from a datapad. "You are awake," he said with a smile. "Good, the doctors were starting to worry. What happened?" Ji-won's voice was rough. Her throat hurt. "What happened is that you became a legend," Tae-hyun said. "You fought a Vakros pack leader and won." The station's security footage was transmitted across the entire galactic network. "Right now, your fight is being analyzed in military academies on 100 worlds." Ji-won tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through her leg. She looked down and saw it was encased in a regeneration cast that glowed with soft blue light. "Fractured tibia and fibula," Tae-hyun explained. "Plus 3 cracked ribs, multiple contusions, a mild concussion, and significant blood loss. Any other species would still be unconscious. But your human healing factor is already repairing the damage. You will be walking in a week. Fully recovered in 3. The survivors from the Horizons promise?" Ji-won asked. "All safe. All alive thanks to you." Tae-hyun put down his datapad. "The Vakros fled the system entirely. They have not been seen since. And Ji-won, you need to understand what this means. The Vakros have never retreated before. Never. They are telling every criminal in the galaxy to avoid humans. You changed our reputation in 5 minutes." Before Ji-won could respond, the medical bay doors opened. Commander Spiral Mind entered, followed by several high-ranking officers and, to Ji-won's surprise, her original squadmates. Prism Cutter, Whisper Current, and Scalebearer stood at the back of the group, looking uncomfortable. "Cadet Ji-won," Spiral Mind said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Naval Academy and the Council of Allied Worlds, I present you with the Medal of Valor for exceptional courage under fire. You saved 43 lives and proved that humanity deserves its place among the stars." A small hovering drone floated forward and placed a silver medal on Ji-won's bedside table. She stared at it, not quite believing this was real. "Thank you, sir," she managed to say. One of the officers, a floating jellyfish-like being, spoke next. "We have reviewed the footage of your confrontation with Renclaw. We have also reviewed human evolutionary biology with Dr. Tae-hyun. We are issuing new protocols for all military facilities. Humans are to be treated as full equals and integrated into standard military operations without prejudice." "It is about time," Tae-hyun muttered. But he was smiling. The officers left, but Commander Spiral Mind remained. He gestured to Ji-won's original squadmates. "These 3 have something to say to you." Prism Cutter stepped forward. His crystalline body refracted the medical bay lights into rainbow patterns. "Cadet Ji-won, I owe you an apology. I requested transfer because your behavior frightened me. I saw aggression and assumed violence. I did not understand that you were simply a soldier doing what soldiers do. I was wrong. If you will accept me, I would like to rejoin your squad." Whisper Current floated forward in his atmospheric suit. "I also apologize. I thought your lack of fear was unnatural. Now I understand it is not lack of fear but courage, the ability to act despite fear. It is something my species has never developed. I would be honored to learn from you." Scalebearer, the large Skorath warrior, was last. He looked directly at Ji-won with his yellow eyes. "I called you weak. I said humans had no natural weapons. I was a fool. You are the deadliest being I have ever seen, not because of claws or armor, but because of will, because you refuse to give up. I have trained my entire life to be a warrior. You were born one. Please allow me to fight beside you." Ji-won felt tears forming in her eyes. She had been so lonely, so isolated, and now these 3 who had rejected her were asking to come back. "Yes," she said. "Yes, of course. I would be glad to have you on my squad." Over the next week, as Ji-won recovered, something strange happened. Other cadets started requesting to join her squad. Quickwing insisted on staying with her. Thoughtkeeper requested permanent assignment. More volunteers came forward every day. Aliens who had once avoided her now wanted to serve with her. Commander Spiral Mind called her to his office when she could finally walk again. "You have a problem, cadet. Too many volunteers for one squad. You have enough requests to form an entire platoon." Ji-won stared at him. "A platoon? But I am just a cadet." "You are more than that now," Spiral Mind said. "You are a symbol. The Academy wants to form a new unit, an experimental integrated squad that combines the best traits of multiple species. They want to call it Squad Terra, after your homeworld, and they want you to lead it." "Me? Lead?" Ji-won felt overwhelmed. You proved you can make life or death decisions under pressure, Spiral Mind said. You kept your head when everyone else panicked. And most importantly, you inspired beings from a dozen different worlds to work together. That is what a leader does. 2 weeks after the Vakros incident, another human arrived at Station Kepler 7. His name was Hyun-soo, a young man fresh from Earth with wide eyes and nervous energy. Ji-won met him at the docking bay. You're the famous Ji-won? Hyun-soo asked. The one who fought the Vakros. I am Ji-won, she confirmed. The famous part feels weird. I was so nervous about coming here, Hyun-soo admitted. I heard humans were not welcome, that we were seen as savages. Things have changed, Ji-won said. Come on, I will introduce you to Squad Terra. We have an open position. She led Hyun-soo through the station. As they walked, other cadets nodded respectfully. Some even saluted. Hyun-soo stared in amazement. They are not afraid of us? Some still are, Ji-won said honestly. But more are curious. We proved that being from a death world does not make us monsters. It makes us survivors. And the galaxy needs survivors. Squad Terra gathered in their training room. Prism Cutter was helping Quickwing with tactical simulations. Scalebearer was teaching Whisper Current hand-to-hand combat techniques adapted for his suit. Thoughtkeeper was analyzing data with 2 other squad members. When Ji-won entered with Hyun-soo, they all stopped and turned. Everyone, this is Hyun-soo, our newest member, Ji-won announced. Another human? Scalebearer said, then grinned, showing all his sharp teeth. Excellent. We could use more Deathworlders. That evening, Ji-won stood alone in the station's memorial hall. The walls were covered with names, thousands of them. Each one a soldier who had given their life in service to the galactic community. She placed her hand on the cold stone. I will do my best, she whispered to the names. I will show them that humans can be trusted. That we can be heroes, not just survivors. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Taehyun had followed her. Feeling the weight of responsibility? Is it always this heavy? Ji-won asked. Yes, Taehyun said. But you do not carry it alone. You have your squad. You have other humans who will follow the path you are making. And you have allies from 100 different worlds who now understand that humans are worth knowing. I just wanted to be a good soldier, Ji-won said. You are more than that now, Taehyun replied. You are a bridge between worlds. You are proof that differences can be strengths. The galaxy feared humans because they did not understand us. You made them understand. Ji-won looked at her reflection in the polished memorial stone. She saw herself, but also saw everyone who stood behind her. Her squad, her fellow humans, everyone who had given her a chance despite their fear. What happens now? She asked. Now you train, Taehyun said. You lead. You show them that humans belong among the stars, and when you graduate, you take Squad Terra out there and make a difference. Far away in the criminal underworlds of the Outer Rim, a new warning spread among pirates and raiders. It passed from ship to ship, from gang to gang, spoken in 100 different languages but always meaning the same thing. Avoid humans. They look small and weak, but they are not prey. They come from a world that tried to kill them for millions of years and failed. They know no other way to live except to fight. They feel pain but ignore it. They feel fear but act anyway. They can be injured, they can be hurt, but they do not know how to give up. If you hunt a human, you might kill them. But they will make absolutely sure you die too. The Vakros learned this. Renclaw learned this. Now we all know humans are not prey. They are predators that learn to think. And in the medical bay of a Vakros warship, Renclaw sat alone. His injuries had healed, but something had changed inside him. He had been the greatest hunter of his generation. He had never feared anything, until he looked into the eyes of a small human and saw something that terrified him. He had seen determination. He had seen will. He had seen something that would chase him across the galaxy if necessary. That would never stop, never quit, never surrender. He had seen what it meant to be born on a death world, and he knew with absolute certainty that he would never hunt a human again. Back on Station Kepler 7, Ji-won stood with her squad in their training room, ready to begin another day. She was no longer alone. She was no longer an outsider. She was a leader, a soldier, and a pioneer. She was human, and that was enough. The great hall of the Galactic Assembly stretched beyond sight. Thousands of alien species filled the chamber, their forms ranging from clouds of gas to beings made of living crystal. Ambassador Ji-won stood alone at the center podium. a small human figure surrounded by creatures who had mastered the stars before Earth even existed. The screens around her showed humanity's history: wars, plagues, cities burning, children starving, nuclear weapons turning the sky white. Jiwan watched the faces of the assembly members as they witnessed her species' darkest moments. Some wept, others looked away. None looked impressed. "This is what you offer us." The voice belonged to Speaker Thrain, a being of pure light who had lived for 10,000 years. "A species that destroys itself?" Jiwan felt her hands shake, but she kept her voice steady. "We offer you survivors. We offer you fighters. We offer you a species that has clawed its way from caves to spacecraft, despite everything the universe threw at us." The assembly murmured, not in agreement. "In pity. You misunderstand," another voice said. "This one belonged to Velthera, a crystalline being whose body reflected light like a prism. We do not deny your struggle. We mourn it. Your species has suffered so terribly, but suffering does not qualify you for the stars." Korath stood next, his massive form towering over the other delegates. His species, the Drakenor, were ancient warriors who had conquered their violent nature millennia ago. "You are still at war with yourselves. You poison your own world. You cannot even feed your children. How can we trust you among the civilized stars?" Jiwan wanted to argue. She wanted to scream that humanity deserved a chance, but the screens told the truth. Earth was dying, not from an asteroid or a star-going nova, but from humanity's own hands. 9 billion people living on a planet that could barely support half that number. Resources depleted. Ecosystems collapsed. Nations fighting over water and food while the ice caps melted. "I see the truth in your words," Jiwan said quietly. "But I also see people trying. Scientists working day and night to fix our mistakes. Engineers building farms in deserts. Teachers giving children hope for a future. We are broken, yes, but we are trying to heal." The assembly was silent for a long moment. Then Erin spoke. She was a seraphim, an empath who could feel the emotions of everyone around her. Her voice carried deep sadness. "I feel your pain, Ambassador. I feel the pain of your entire species. It is overwhelming. It is beautiful and terrible. You carry so much grief, yet you still hope." "Then help us," G1 said. "We are not asking for a free pass. We are asking for a chance to learn." More silence. Then the vote began. Jiwan watched as species after species rejected humanity's application for membership. The votes were not cruel. They were gentle, regretful. Each rejection came with words of sympathy and sorrow. When the final count appeared, Jiwan felt her heart sink. Humanity had been unanimously denied, but Speaker Thrain raised a hand. "However, the Assembly cannot ignore your suffering. We propose something different. Not membership, but mercy. We will send guardians to Earth. 3 volunteers who will guide humanity toward survival, or witness your passing with dignity." "Witness our passing?" Jiwan felt anger rise in her chest. "You are offering us hospice care?" "We are offering you hope," Velthera said softly. "More than any dying species has received before." 3 beings stepped forward from the assembly. Velthera, with her crystalline body that had seen empires rise and fall. Korath, the warrior philosopher who had trained armies across 100 worlds. And Erin, the empath who felt compelled to ease suffering wherever she found it. "We volunteer," they said in unison. Jiwan wanted to refuse. She wanted to tell them humanity did not need their pity. But she looked at the screens again, at the images of Earth struggling to breathe. And she knew they had no choice. "On behalf of humanity," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I accept." 6 months later, Captain Hyun stood on the bridge of the Destiny, humanity's first and only deep space vessel. The ship was not impressive by galactic standards. It was built from scrapped satellites and desperate engineering. But it flew, and that had been humanity's proudest achievement, until today. The message from Earth came through, and Hyun read it aloud to his crew. "The Galactic Assembly has granted humanity provisional status. 3 alien representatives will arrive on Earth to begin our integration process." His crew should have celebrated. Instead, they stood in silence. "Provisional status," Dr. Sora said from her station. "They did not say we passed. They said we were granted mercy." Engineer Minho, the youngest member of the crew, slammed his hand on the console. "We did not ask for their pity. We asked for a seat at the table. And we got a spot on the floor," Yun said bitterly. but it is better than being locked out entirely. The Destiny received orders to return to Earth immediately. As they descended through the atmosphere, Hyun looked at the planet below. Clouds of pollution hung over major cities. Vast stretches of desert where forest once grew. Oceans turning brown from algae blooms. It hurt to see. It hurt more to know the aliens would see it too. The three Guardians arrived in a ship that made the Destiny look like a toy. It landed outside the ruins of what used to be New York, where a temporary council hall had been built. Humanity's leaders gathered to meet them, trying to look dignified despite their worn clothes and tired faces. Velthara emerged first. Her crystalline body caught the polluted sunlight and threw rainbows across the rubble. "Greetings, people of Earth," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "I am Velthara. I have lived for 3,000 of your years, and I have seen many civilizations. I am here to help you become one that survives." Korath came next, his massive form causing the ground to shake. "I am Korath. I will teach you discipline and unity. Without these, no species can thrive." Finally, Erin floated down, her form shimmering like heat waves. "I am Erin. I feel your pain. I am here to help you heal." Jiwon stood as Earth's representative. She wanted to say something proud, something that showed humanity's strength. But standing before these ancient, powerful beings, she could only speak the truth. "We are grateful you came. We know what we look like to you. We know you see a species on the edge of destruction. You are right. But we are also still fighting. We are still hoping. And maybe with your help we can become something worth saving." Erin drifted closer and placed a hand near Jiwon's heart. The empath gasped. "You hope so fiercely it burns. How do you carry so much pain and still hope?" Jiwon smiled, and it was not a happy smile. "Because we have no other choice. Humans die hard. That is what we do best." The three Guardians looked at each other. They had come expecting to find a species in its final days, ready to accept comfort and fade away. Instead, they found people standing in ruins, bloodied but unbowed, still daring to dream of stars they had no right to reach. It made them wonder if they truly understood what they had volunteered for. The first month was harder than any of them expected. Velthara tried to restore Earth's damaged ecosystems using technology that had saved a dozen worlds. She set up atmospheric processors in the Pacific Ocean, massive machines designed to pull pollution from the air and convert it into breathable oxygen. The machines worked perfectly for 3 days. On the 4th day, they exploded. "I do not understand," Velthara said, examining the wreckage. "These processors have functioned flawlessly on every world I have visited. The design is perfect." Engineer Minho climbed through the debris, his young face smudged with ash. "Your design did not account for Earth's microplastics. They gummed up the filtration system." He held up a handful of tiny plastic particles. "Our oceans are full of this stuff. Your machines choked on our garbage." Velthara felt something she had not experienced in 1,000 years. Shame. "I should have scanned more thoroughly." "It is okay," Minho said, already sketching designs on a tablet. "We can fix this. Look, if we add a pre-filter here and route the intake through a magnetic separator, and maybe use some mesh nets we can make from recycled fishing gear." He trailed off, lost in thought. "That is not how the technology is meant to function," Velthara protested. "You are describing a crude modification." Minho grinned. "Yeah, but will it work?" They rebuilt the processors together. Velthara provided the advanced technology. Minho added duct tape, scrap metal, and what he called creative problem solving. The hybrid machines looked terrible, held together with wire and hope. But they worked. They worked better than Velthara's original design. "This violates 3 laws of thermodynamics," Velthara said, watching the jury-rigged processors clean the ocean. "Does it work?" Minho asked. "Yes. Then who cares about the laws?" Velthara found herself making a sound she had never made before. Laughter. Across the world, Korath was having his own education. He had agreed to train Earth's military forces, teaching them the discipline that had made the Draconor Empire peaceful and strong. He expected to find soldiers eager to learn the ways of honorable combat. Instead, he found Captain Hyun. They met in a training facility that had once been a parking garage. Korath demonstrated perfect combat forms, movements refined over thousands of years. Hyun watched politely, then asked, "Why?" "Why what?" Korath rumbled. "Why do you fight like that? It is beautiful, but war is not beautiful." Korath felt his pride stung. I fight with honor. With discipline. These forms have been passed down through generations. Hyun nodded slowly. Can I show you how humans fight? The captain took Korath to a memorial wall covered in names. Thousands of names. These are soldiers who died in the resource wars. We did not fight with honor. We fought in mud and radiation. We fought hungry and scared. We did terrible things to survive. Then you are savages, Korath said, but his voice was uncertain. Maybe, Hyun agreed, but we are savages who chose to stop. That soldier there, he pointed to a name, threw himself on a grenade to save his squad. He was 19 years old. That one deserted her unit and walked through a minefield to carry medicine to enemy civilians. She died saving people she was supposed to kill. Korath was silent. You say you conquered your violent nature, Hyun continued. We have not conquered ours. We fight it every single day. Every day we choose to be better than what we are. Is that not its own kind of discipline? Korath looked at the wall of names. Thousands of them. Humans who had died making impossible choices. Perhaps I came to teach the wrong lesson. Then teach us a new one, Hyun said. Teach us how to fight without becoming monsters. We do not need to learn violence. We need to learn how to be strong without it. In the medical centers, Dr. Sora worked 18-hour shifts alongside Irin. The Seraphim empath had expected to provide comfort to a dying species. Instead, she found herself struggling to keep up with a single human doctor. Sora moved between patients with practiced efficiency. A child with radiation poisoning. An old man dying from cancer caused by polluted water. A woman injured in a riot over food rations. Each case was desperate. Each patient should have died. But Sora kept fighting. How do you do this? Irin asked, exhausted after only 6 hours. I can feel their pain. Every single one of them. It is overwhelming. Sora did not look up from her work. I feel it too. But you are not an empath. I do not need to be. I see their faces. I hear them cry. I watch them die. Sora's hands trembled as she injected medicine into a patient. Every single day I watch them die. Then why continue? Irin whispered. Why put yourself through this? Sora finally met her eyes. Because some of them live. And those that do not, they deserve to have someone fighting for them until the very end. We grieve later. Right now, people need us. Irin felt something shift inside her. She had lived for centuries, using her empathy to ease suffering from a safe distance. Sora had no such protection. The doctor felt every loss, carried every death, and still showed up the next day to fight impossible battles. Teach me, Irin said. Teach you what? How to hope when everything says you should despair. Sora managed a tired smile. That is easy. You just do not give yourself any other choice. But not everyone on Earth welcomed the Guardians. 3 months into their mission, protests erupted across multiple cities. Humans held signs saying, "Our planet, our solutions, and we do not need alien saviors." Ambassador Jiwon met with the protest leaders in what remained of Beijing. A young woman named Yunji spoke for the group. You traded our dignity for their help. We would rather die free than live as their charity case. We are dying anyway, Jiwon said bluntly. With them, we might survive. At what cost? Yunji demanded. They look at us with pity in their eyes. They see us as broken things to fix. Is that what we are? Jiwon had no answer. The tension came to a head when a group of protesters sabotaged one of Velthara's atmospheric processors. The machine exploded, killing 17 people. The protesters claimed it was an accident. Others called it terrorism. The 3 Guardians gathered to discuss their mission. 6 months in, and humanity seemed more divided than ever. Perhaps the assembly was right, Velthara said quietly. Perhaps we cannot save them. They do not want to be saved, Korath agreed. They want to prove they can save themselves. But their pride will kill them. Irin said nothing for a long moment. Then she spoke. I have been feeling something strange. Beneath all the pain and fear and anger, I feel something else. Something I have never felt before in a dying civilization. What? Velthara asked, defiance. Not the defiance of a cornered animal, but the defiance of a species that refuses to accept their fate. They do not believe they are dying. Even the ones protesting, they do not want our help because they genuinely believe they can fix this themselves. That is delusion, Korath said. Is it? Irin floated closer to her companions. Or is it the one thing that might actually save them? We came here expecting to comfort the dying. But what if they are not dying? What if they are just getting started? Before anyone could answer, Alarms screamed across every communication channel. Emergency broadcasts lit up screens worldwide. Ambassador Jiwan's face appeared, and even through the static, her terror was clear. All Guardian representatives, please report to the Emergency Council immediately. We have a situation. The 3 aliens rushed to the council chambers. When they arrived, they found humanity's leaders standing around a holographic display of the solar system. At the edge of the display, a red warning pulsed. What is it? Velthara asked. Jiwan's voice was hollow. A rogue magnetar. It is moving through our region of space, and its gravitational effects will destabilize our solar system. We have approximately 6 months before Earth becomes uninhabitable. Korath processed the information. You need to evacuate. The Galactic Assembly is already preparing rescue ships, Jiwan said. They can evacuate 10 million people. 10 million. Out of 9 billion. The room fell silent. The Galactic Assembly's message arrived 12 hours after the magnetar was detected. Speaker Thrane's hologram filled the Emergency Council chamber, his light form dimmed with sorrow. People of Earth, we grieve with you. The Assembly is mobilizing every available transport ship. We will begin evacuation procedures within the week. Selection committees will identify the 10 million humans most likely to preserve your species and culture. Ambassador Jiwan stood before the hologram. 10 million. It is more than we have saved from any other extinction event, Speaker Thrane said gently. We understand this is inadequate, but the physics cannot be changed. A magnetar's effects are absolute. Earth will be torn apart. We can save some of you, and through them, humanity will live on. How do we choose? Jiwan asked. How do we decide which children get to live while others die? The committees will make those decisions for you. It will be based on genetic diversity, skills, age, and potential for rebuilding. Captain Hyun stepped forward. You are going to judge us? Rate our lives like cargo? We are trying to save your species. Thrane's light flickered with frustration. Do you not understand? This is more mercy than any civilization has ever received. You should be grateful. Grateful? Dr. Sora's voice was quiet but sharp. You want us to be grateful that we get to pick less than 1% of humanity to live while the rest burn? You want us to smile and thank you while 8,990,000,000 people die? Velthara, who had been silent, finally spoke. What else can be done? The magnetar cannot be stopped. Earth cannot survive its passage. Engineer Minho had been staring at his tablet, fingers flying across the screen. What if we do not have to stop it? What if we just have to survive it? Everyone turned to look at him. The magnetar's gravitational waves will hit Earth in 6 months, Minho continued, his voice getting faster as ideas poured out. But if we could generate a strong enough electromagnetic shield, we might be able to deflect the worst of the effects. Not completely, but enough that Earth stays in one piece. Korath shook his massive head. The energy requirements would be impossible. You would need the power output of a star. What about the moon? Minho pulled up schematics. It has mass. It has position. What if we turned it into a giant shield generator, used its entire structure as one massive electromagnetic array? The room went silent. Then Velthara spoke, her voice heavy with pity. Young engineer, I admire your creativity, but what you describe would require technology we do not possess and construction on a scale never attempted. Even if the physics worked, which they would not, you could not build it in 6 months, but could it work? Minho pressed. Theoretically. Velthara hesitated. Theoretically, if you had unlimited resources, perfect construction, technology that does not exist, and several years on it perhaps, but you have none of those things in Mao. We have 6 months, Minho said. We have 9 billion people, and we have nothing left to lose. Captain Hyun looked at the young engineer. You want to build the impossible. I want to try. Ambassador Jiwan contacted the Galactic Assembly immediately. We reject the evacuation plan. Humanity will build a lunar shield to protect Earth. The response was swift and unanimous. Request denied. The project is not feasible. Accept the evacuation before time runs out. This is not a request, Jiwan said coldly. This is notification. We are building the shield with or without your permission. Speaker Thrane's hologram reappeared, no longer gentle. You will kill yourselves trying. At least accept our help. Let some of you live. You offer to save a fraction of humanity so the survivors can watch their homeworld die and know they abandoned everyone they loved? Jiwan's voice shook with fury. You call that mercy? We call it damnation. Every human who gets on those evacuation ships will spend the rest of their life knowing they lived because someone else died. We will not do that to our people. Then you choose extinction. We choose to fight. The hologram vanished. The three guardians stood in the chamber with humanity's leaders. Velthara spoke first. The Assembly has given us direct orders to evacuate with the rescue ships. We are to document humanity's final days and witness your passing with dignity. Then go, Hyun said. We do not need witnesses to our death. We need help to survive. Korath stepped forward, his massive form seeming even larger in the small chamber. I came here to teach discipline. Instead, you taught me what discipline truly means. It means standing when you should fall, fighting when you should surrender, choosing hope when logic demands despair. He knelt, bringing his eyes level with Hyun's. I will not abandon my students before their greatest test. Erin floated next to him. I came to ease your suffering. But you do not want ease. You want victory. How can I leave before I see if you achieve it? Velthara was silent for a long moment. 3,000 years of life had taught her to calculate probabilities, to accept inevitable outcomes. The shield was impossible. Earth would die. These humans would die. Every cold calculation in her crystalline mind said to leave. But she looked at Minho, this young human who dared to dream of bending physics itself. She thought of his jury-rigged atmospheric processors, held together with garbage and determination, that somehow worked better than her perfect designs. I am a scientist, Velthara said finally. A true scientist does not abandon an experiment before seeing the results, even if the experiment is impossible. She turned to Minho. Show me your calculations. The next week was a storm of activity. Minho's designs spread across every communication network. Scientists worldwide tore them apart, found 1,000 flaws and built them back up with modifications. The shield was impossible. Everyone agreed on that. But they started working on it anyway. The Galactic Assembly watched in disbelief as humanity began the largest construction project in their history. Mining operations on the moon accelerated to insane speeds. Engineers worked in conditions that should have killed them. Factories that had been making weapons and consumer goods retooled overnight to produce shield components. Protests vanished. Political differences evaporated. Nations that had been at war for decades shared resources and knowledge. Every human on Earth united behind one goal: survive. But the cost became apparent immediately. The project needed every resource Earth had. Food production was sacrificed for materials. Medical supplies were rationed to bare minimums. Power grids were pushed beyond safety limits. People began dying not from the magnetar but from the shield itself. Dr. Sora watched the casualties mount in her medical center. Starvation, exhaustion, industrial accidents. Her supplies dwindled. She had to choose which patients to save and which to let die. The triage decisions grew harder each day. Erin worked alongside her, feeling every death. How many will die before the shield is complete? The empath asked. I do not know, Sora admitted. Hundreds of thousands at least. Maybe millions, and if the shield fails? Then they died for nothing. Erin felt the weight of those words. How do you keep working knowing that? Sora looked at a young girl sleeping fitfully in a medical bed, suffering from malnutrition because her family gave their food rations to the construction workers. Because if I stop, she definitely dies. If I keep going, maybe she lives. Maybe is better than definitely. On the moon, Captain Hyun led the construction crews in conditions that violated every safety regulation ever written. Workers labored in vacuum with patched suits. They welded components with equipment held together by hope. When someone died, their body was brought back to Earth and another worker took their place within the hour. Korath worked beside them, his powerful form lifting materials that should have required machines. He expected humans to break under the pressure. Instead, he watched them carry their dead comrades to transport ships, return to the surface, and continue working. When asked why, one worker simply said, "Because she would have wanted us to finish." The warrior understood then that human discipline was not about following orders. It was about choosing to stand when falling would be easier. Velthara and Minho worked in a research station, solving impossible problems with solutions that should not work. They were running out of time. The shield was only 60% complete and they had 2 months left. We need more power, Minho said, staring at the calculations.
Even if we finish construction, we do not have enough energy to run it. Velthara felt despair for the first time in 1,000 years.
Then it is over. No. Minho's eyes lit up. The Destiny. It has a fusion reactor core. Your only deep space ship? We do not need it if we are dead. The decision was made in minutes. The Destiny would be cannibalized. Humanity's only vessel capable of reaching the stars would be sacrificed so Earth might survive. Captain Hyun gave the order himself, and Velthara watched him sign away humanity's dreams of space without hesitation. You do not have to do this, she said. Hyun smiled sadly. We built one ship. If we survive, we will build 1,000 more. The stars will wait for us. With 1 month remaining, the shield stood at 85% completion. Earth was dying. Millions had perished from starvation and exhaustion, but every day more sections of the shield activated. The impossible was becoming merely improbable. With 3 weeks remaining, the magnetar's effects began. Earth's magnetic field wavered. Auroras danced across skies that had never seen them before. Earthquakes struck cities already weakened by resource depletion. The oceans grew restless, and still humanity worked. Velthara had stopped sleeping. She did not need sleep as often as humans, but now she refused it entirely. Minho worked beside her in the command center, his eyes red from exhaustion. They had become something neither expected: friends. The shield is at 92%, Minho reported. But we have a problem. There was always a problem. Velthara had learned to expect them. What now? Section 7's power relay failed. It would take 2 weeks to manufacture a replacement. Minho pulled up schematics. Without it, the shield will only operate at about 70% capacity. Will 70% be enough? No. Velthara felt her crystalline structure dim. They had come so far. Millions had died building this impossible thing, and it would fail because of one component. There must be alternatives. There are none, Minho said. Then he stopped. Wait, there is one option. The Destiny's reactor core. We were going to use it for general power, but if we route it directly to Section 7, it would strand the reactor on the moon. Velthara finished. You would lose even the salvageable parts of your ship. Do we have a choice? They did not. Captain Hyun was contacted. He was on the lunar surface helping install the final shield components. When he heard the news, he did not hesitate. Strip the Destiny completely. Use every part that can help. The last piece of humanity's first starship was dismantled and woven into the lunar shield. Earth's dreams of space died so Earth itself might live. On Earth, the casualties grew worse. The magnetar's early effects caused electromagnetic storms that shut down power grids. Hospitals went dark. People froze in their homes. Dr. Sora worked by flashlight and battery, her supplies exhausted, her hands shaking from fatigue. A mother brought her dying son to the medical center. The boy was maybe 8 years old, suffering from radiation exposure. Sora looked at Erin. They both knew the truth. Without power for the medical equipment, the child would die. I am sorry, Sora whispered to the mother. We have no power. I cannot save him, the mother did not cry. She simply nodded and held her son close. I know. I just wanted him to be somewhere safe when... She could not finish. Erin felt the mother's grief crash over her like a wave. She had felt death before, witnessed countless beings pass away. But this was different. This mother was not angry. She was not cursing fate or the aliens or the universe. She was just sad. Sad and accepting and still somehow gentle with her dying child. Why? Erin asked. Why are you not angry? The mother looked up, surprised. Angry at what? At everything. At us for not saving you. At the universe for being cruel. At your leaders for attempting the impossible instead of evacuating some of you. Oh. The mother managed a tired smile. I am angry. Angry at the Magnetar for threatening my world. Angry at myself for not being able to protect my son. But anger would not change anything right now. Right now he needs me to be calm. The boy died an hour later. The mother thanked Dr. Sora and left carrying her son's body. Erin watched her go. This human who had shown more grace in her darkest moment than Erin had seen in centuries of life. They are extraordinary, Erin whispered. They are just people, Sora said. But her voice broke. Just people trying to survive. With 1 week remaining, the shield reached 98% completion. The last components were being installed when disaster struck. A solar flare, triggered by the Magnetar's approach, swept across the moon. It destroyed 3 major sections of the shield and killed over 200 workers. The timeline was now impossible. Even working around the clock, they could not repair the damage before the Magnetar's full effects hit. The shield would activate at 95% capacity. Maybe 96 if they were lucky. It would not be enough. Korath stood among the bodies of the fallen workers, humans who had died trying to move a mountain. He had seen warriors fall in battle before, but these were not warriors. They were engineers and scientists and ordinary people who had never wanted to fight. Yet they had stood anyway. One of the survivors, a woman named Isolde, began organizing the remaining workers. We continue. We have 6 days. Let us make them count. It is not enough time, Korath said gently. Isolde looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. It never was. We knew that from the start. But we try anyway. That is what humans do. She returned to work. So did the others. Korath joined them, lifting debris with his powerful arms, wondering when he had stopped being a guardian and become one of them. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwan received the final calculations from Velthara. The shield would reach 96% capacity at best. It would reduce the Magnetar's effects but not eliminate them. Earth would survive, but barely. The casualties would be catastrophic. 2 billion people would die. Jiwan looked at the numbers and felt numb. 2 billion. It was better than 9 billion. But it still meant choosing which cities would get full shield coverage and which would be left vulnerable. It meant deciding which continents would have power during the storm and which would go dark. She called an emergency session of all remaining world leaders. When they gathered, she presented the calculations without emotion. We do not have enough power to protect everyone. We need to prioritize certain regions. The room erupted in arguments. Every leader wanted their people protected. Every nation demanded priority. The unity that had built the shield began to crack under the weight of impossible choices. Then a young delegate from a small island nation stood up. Stop. The room quieted. My islands will be destroyed no matter what, she said calmly. The storm will hit us first and hardest. We have 3 million people. We are going dark anyway. She took a breath. Redirect our power allocation to the continental shields. Let us contribute to saving others. You are condemning your people to death, someone protested. They are already dead, the delegate said simply. But their power might save someone else's children. Is that not worth something? Another leader stood. Our coastal cities cannot be saved. Take our power too, then another. And another. Jiwan watched in stunned silence as nation after nation volunteered to sacrifice themselves. They were not giving up. They were choosing to fight in the only way left to them, by ensuring others survived. The final power allocation was calculated. 5 billion people would have full shield protection, 2 billion would have partial protection, 2 billion would have almost none, and those 2 billion chose to give their power to the others. The day before the Magnetar's full effects hit, the shield activated for the first time. Humanity held its breath as electromagnetic fields blazed across the moon, creating a barrier of energy between Earth and oblivion. The shield held at 96% capacity. Engineer Minho stood in the command center with Velthara, watching their impossible creation come to life. We did it, he whispered. You did it, Velthara corrected. I only helped. Will it be enough? The crystalline being looked at this young human who had dared to defy physics itself. I do not know. But you gave your species a chance. That is more than anyone thought possible. Across Earth, people prepared for the storm. In the protected zones, families huddled together in reinforced shelters. In the unprotected zones, people stood outside looking up at the sky one last time. Dr. Sora and Erin worked in a coastal city that would receive minimal protection. They had refused evacuation, choosing to stay with the patients who could not be moved. As the sky began to change color, Sora held Erin's hand. Thank you, Sora said, for staying. Where else would I be? Erin replied. On the moon, Captain Hyun and Korath stood at the shield's central command post. They had done everything possible. The rest was up to fate and physics and the desperate hope of a species that refused to die quietly. If we survive this, Hyun said, remind me to build a better ship. Korath laughed, a deep rumbling sound. If we survive this, I will help you. The Magnetar's full effects hit Earth like a hammer. The sky turned colors that had no names. The oceans rose in mountains of water. The ground shook with force that shattered buildings, and through it all the shield blazed with impossible light, deflecting energies that should have torn the planet apart. In the protected zones, the shield held firm. Cities trembled but stood. People survived. In the partially protected zones, the casualties were severe. Buildings collapsed. Fires swept through neighborhoods. But some people lived, pulled from rubble by neighbors who refused to give up. In the unprotected zones, the destruction was total. Entire cities vanished. Coastlines reshaped. 2 billion lives ended in moments of fire and fury. But Earth did not die. The planet, battered and broken, remained in one piece. The shield had worked. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough to give humanity another chance.